I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but if you haven't watched the last season of Game of Thrones, you'll be spoiled if you watch this movie. Hello and welcome to On The Watch, where we don't let our fandom get in the way of our honest criticism. If you've liked our work, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell gizmo. I'm your host Maz, and this is our review of Hobbs and Shaw, Toxic Masculinity, the movie. I'm actually really glad I only watched the first trailer for this movie, because all of the trailers after that show pretty much all of the action scenes and all of the story beats. I honestly don't understand why I love this movie so much, but I do. Don't get me wrong, it's not a good movie. It's not even a mediocre movie by any stretch of the imagination. But it's super fun, and all of the actors involved know what kind of a movie they're in. It's a throwback to all of the crazy action movies that came out back in the 90s. One-liners were flying back and forth during a 2-hour 16-minute dick measuring contest. And also, family. Idris Elba is infinitely watchable, and he's chewing the scenery with so much swag and charisma. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham were in each other's faces and bickering constantly, and it was filling the room with so much homoerotic sexual tension, to the point that the guy sitting next to me just shouted, "Just fuck already, Jesus!" And I can't disagree with that. There's this constant display of power and power dynamic between the two. And supposedly, it translates in real life too, with the news coming out about their insane control over how they want to be portrayed to preserve and maintain their macho alpha male persona and reputation. This whole situation is obnoxiously ridiculous and childish. And it isn't the first time that weird news like that comes out of the set as well. The Rock and Vin Diesel notoriously don't get along on set, to the point that they refuse to be in the same scene together. And The Rock actually called him a candy ass on his Instagram and on national TV. This movie really moves, and when it comes to its action scenes and action sequences, it's relentless. And there's a lot of action in this rather long 2-hour and 16-minute movie. And to be perfectly honest, it makes the movie feel a lot shorter than it actually is. There are 2 super awesome cameos in this movie, and they go on for a long time. And further along in the film, they make a comeback as well, and they're both hilarious. And at the very end, there's this weird post-credit scene where they spoil the whole last season of Game of Thrones for some odd reason. And to me, it's just super odd that this franchise started out as a street racing heist movie, and now is this ridiculously over-the-top superhero, super spy, save the world, insane franchise that now attracts legends like Helen Mirren and Kurt Russell and A-listers like Charlize Theron. And what's super weird about this all is that this ridiculousness is exactly what makes these movies better. To prepare for this review, I actually rewatched all of the Fast and Furious movies, which is a chore. It really is. And this is my top 5. At number 5, I have the original The Fast and the Furious, the one that started the whole thing. At that time, nobody at Universal would have thought that this movie would become such a huge franchise, such a success, and such a cash cow for them. And also, credit where credit is due, we have to give a shout out to Point Break, because if it wasn't for Point Break, Fast and Furious would never exist. At number 4, I have Fast 7, the most emotional one. With the untimely death of Paul Walker and their tribute at the end of the movie, there wasn't a dry eye in the theater where I was watching it. And for me at least, that's where the main movies started losing their footing and going off rails. Paul Walker's character, Brian, was what grounded these movies. He was the straight man between all of these characters and these big, bloated egos. And that was really obvious in The Fate of the Furious. Number 3 is Tokyo Drift, the last earthbound realistic Fast and Furious movie. Tokyo Drift works so well because of 3 reasons. Han, Han, Han. And I don't think that I'm alone in this when I say that it's an absolute crime that everybody seemed to have forgiven Jason Statham's character, Deckard Shaw, for killing him. Number 2, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Hobbs and Shaw. It might be recency bias, but I freaking love this movie. There wasn't a dull moment in the whole thing. And Idris Elba as the villain, Brixton, just is amazing. Number 1, has to be Fast 5. It is the first movie in which they decided to embrace the madness and insanity, and it had the introduction of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Which Fast and Furious movie is your favorite? Let us know in the comment section. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell gizmo to help us grow. You can find us on all social media at Watch on the Watch. Keep an eye out for our next review. But until then, stay on the watch.